The most common savings for retirement is the 401k. In Canada, it's an RRSP. Some places call it superannuation. For the purposes of this video, it's a retirement account. Money in a pile invested to hopefully keep up with the pace of inflation. We trust our financial advisors to do their best to be able to care for our life savings and have our precious asset appreciate. Today, however, it seems that too many are woefully unprepared. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today I got a quick video. We're going to talk about the 401k. We're going to talk about retirement accounts. I'm going to show you the data, and I think it's really important to have those preparations in place because truthfully, as time goes on, we find that there are always unexpected events. This can come in any form. You could have a medical emergency. You could have a family emergency. There could be an appliance in your house that breaks. There could be any number of factors here, and this doesn't happen when you're expecting it. It's not going to occur after a certain point when you reached a certain goal. It's going to hit you where it hurts when you least expect it. That's the way it happens to be, unfortunately, so you need to be prepared in advance. You need to do your best to save, and of course, you need to hedge your bets, all right? Always make sure that you have a diversified selection in whatever it is that you do. So I'm going to cover some of the data here, and it comes from an article out of CNBC titled "How Much Money Americans Have in Their 401k at Every Age." So I'm going to show you the information here. I'm also going to show you the charts that correspond to it. How much should I be saving for retirement? By the way, I am not necessarily condoning any of the information in here. I'm simply bringing it to you, and then perhaps at the end I might touch on a couple points. The answer to this is highly personal, depends on the lifestyle, expenses, and spending habits, but there are a few basic guidelines to follow if you want to retire comfortably. They're going to make some suggestions here. For example, this individual from AE Wealth Management says that if you set aside at least 10% of your income, you'll be fine. And you've heard that number before. 10% happens to be something that is generic for a long period of time. More is always better. Box says that if you want to retire rich, save 15 and 20%. And if you want to retire early, save 20% or more. Okay, so that's their recommendations. And this happens to be based on so many factors here that these numbers are very generic, but I just like to think of it as save as much as you possibly can. Where you put your money, it better make you more back. That's always the way that I look at things, okay? So either you're going to get enjoyment out of it in some way, or it has to directly pay you back. For example, if you spend money on a greenhouse, you know that that thing is going to pay you back 100 times over if you keep planting food into it, right? That's the way it works. Just like if you were to invest in a particular stock that had a dividend, that would be paying you off time and time again. The same thing with the real estate property and so on. There are all these things that will pay you back in the end, and you need to be aware of that. Fidelity recommends saving 15%, and that amount includes contributions from your paycheck as well as any contributions from your company. You know that there are many companies out there that will match your payments and so on. This is what they suggest. If you can't save 15% right away, make sure that you're saving at least enough to get the full match that your employer offers. Make a commitment to yourself. You're going to increase your contribution 1 to 2% every year until you get there and so on. Slow and steady wins the race. Average 401k balance by age. This is what we wanted to get to, right? So looking at this, how much Americans have in their 401k plans as of the first quarter of 2019. This information comes from Fidelity, so it's a good source. And obviously, when you look at a 401k, the younger group generally has very little. They do not save in general. In this way, they're not too worried about retirement at this point. Maybe they're more worried about getting their first home and so on. So we see this number at just under 12,000. When you go to 30 to 39, you get 42,000. When you see 40 to 49, that's 100,000. 50 to 59, 174,000. 60 to 69 is nearly $200,000. You could make the argument in here, a lot of individuals, the way that they save, I personally believe is wrong. A lot of them will invest in their 401k while they still have credit card debt, while they still have a home equity line of credit, while they have all of this, they're so focused on making sure that they have these contributions to their 401k that they will actually carry a balance on all of these debt instruments. And while you might have some of of them. Maybe you got a really cheap loan and it's only 4%, let's say. In my opinion, this is not something that you should be paying. You should be paying down that loan, and then when you're done, then you can pay into your 401k or whatever you're using for your retirement account. That's the way I see it. That's my opinion. You can decide what you want to do, of course, but they usually use this whole match of the contributions by your employer as a reason that you should always do it. I'll leave that up to you, whatever you want to decide. Fidelity also recommends having 10 times your final salary in savings if you want to retire by the age of 67, and suggests a timeline to use in order to get to that magic number. Okay, so this is what we're looking at in here. All these different things, I'll just cover really quickly. By age 30, have the equivalent of your starting salary saved. By age 35, you have 2 times your salary. By age 40, 3 times, and we go down all the way. Age 60, have 8 times your salary, and by age 67, have 10 times your salary saved. So I'm not sure if many people can actually do that, but that's what they say. If you can get to this point a little bit as time goes on, you're going to get better and better, you're going to save more and more, and supposedly this is going to be a big help to you. There's a chart that's associated with that in here as well. The average 401k contribution rates by age, how much Americans are contributing to their 401k as of the first quarter of 2019. You can just see this number grows as the ages get older, okay, because they're more worried about retirement. Maybe they've paid down their house and now they can put more into it. And of course, this is just something that they're showing from Fidelity, but this happens to be about the average from what I have seen in other reports and other surveys and things. Now, I want to talk about something. When you look at this type of information, we are seeing people that are paying into their 401k. All right. So we got people paying to their 401ks and they put a lot of money in here. Sometimes I've heard people that simply contribute as much as they possibly can every single month, and they do so maybe every paycheck and so on. Okay. So this pile is actually quite large in relation to their current assets. Okay, they basically put everything into the 401k, or for the most part, that's where their money is. So they have a 401k, maybe they have a mortgage on their home. Okay, so we have these two things. So they're paying down the mortgage, they're paying down the 401k, they have budgeted all of this, and that's their plan. Okay, pay down the mortgage as soon as possible, and then they'll have a 401k as a little nest egg. There's just one problem with the 401k with this method that I personally am not really interested in. So when you carry debt, even if it's at a low percentage rate, I want you to actually look, forget about the monthly payments. I want you to actually calculate how much interest you're going to pay over the course of that mortgage. Okay, let's say you're covering that for 30 years, okay? 30-year mortgage. How long is this actually going to be paid off? And many people, it's going to take 30 years. Some people will pay it off sooner. But if it's going to be that 30-year period, if you're carrying hundreds of thousands of dollars of a mortgage throughout that period of time, you are going to pay a considerable amount in interest, depending on the interest rate, of course. It doesn't matter if it's that low, because when we're talking about these big numbers, you are going to be paying a lot of money over that period of time. What I would personally do is to actually pay down your debt, whether it's your credit cards first, because those are extremely expensive. Then we go into those that are lower and lower on the interest, get rid of all of that debt, and then work on your mortgage. You can do accelerated payments, you can pay bi-weekly. There are ways to do this that are very minimal in terms of how much it will affect your pocketbook, but actually make a considerable difference in how long it takes to pay it down. Therefore, there is less interest. Okay, that is so much better as an idea as far as I'm concerned. You pay maybe $100, $200, $300 a month extra, and you could be paying this down literally 10, 15 years sooner, and it's really not that much when you look at the overall, how you budget everything. But people, they simply focus on the 401k, and that's, in my opinion, not the most wise idea, because the debt that is carried throughout this period of time is accumulating so much interest. You're putting money, you're just wasting it. That's what this is ultimately. But they have sold people on this, and you have to understand, a company like Fidelity is selling selling you on a 401k, on a package, on some sort of mutual fund. They are trying to get you into these investments, and they do so by basically giving you that incentive. You have your employer that gives you an incentive, you have the company might give you an incentive. There are incentives here that they sell you on. People don't see the financial industry as a bunch of salesmen because you have a nice guy. Oh, you want to invest? Sure, no problem. Let me help you out. And they do so. They don't know how it works. They don't know the fees that are hidden, embedded, not the fees, the management expense ratio. No. The fees that are actually embedded inside of these investments. Well, they'll never learn. They don't care because they feel confident in it, and that's about it. I think I've ranted on enough. I just want you to be a little bit more wise in what you do rather than the general public, because we know these individuals are going to be hurt. The point about the 401k, the point about saving in the bank is that you don't know what's going to happen. You make this assumption that we are going to get 7% returns year over year for the foreseeable future. 20 years down the road, I calculated it out. This is how much money I'm going to have. I'm going to be able to retire at 58 years old. I'm doing good. When that time comes, whatever year that might be, okay, let's just say 2030, I'm going to retire in 2030. What is happening to the economy, to the stock market, to your current country in 2030? If anybody can tell you that, I really think that they need to start playing the lottery, because they are able to predict the future. You can't do that. So you have to hedge your bets. You have to spread your money wide. You have to geographically diversify perhaps. There are many different methods here that people are not considering because they go through the conventional means. I know what's going to happen in 2030. I'm a soothsayer. I'm a fortune teller. That's what they come to think of it when you really look into it. Of course, people are thinking that they can predict the future. It's just weird when you actually sit down and think about it for a sec. Take the pen, take the paper, and sit down and think about this. Write it all out for yourself. That's enough ranting for this video. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. If you want to comment on the video, please do so. Let's engage in discussion, okay? It's really important for that. Let's all engage in discussion on all of these different videos, on all of the information that I present to you. If you want the financial education you were not taught in school, these two books have everything you need, top to bottom, A to Z. You can get all the details at the link in the description. If you want the audiobook, that's available at themoneygps.com. Hold on a second, don't go anywhere. You need to watch this video. I get into some information that you must watch. Click on it and I will see you there.